Welcome to Direction Northeast. Hello, I'm Kit Alexander. This program is a presentation of the Communications Department of Northeast State Community College. Coming up November 8th through the 11th is Northeast State Theater Department's production of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. We've talked with several people on the production staff for the show as well as 4 of the actors. A fantasy show like 20,000 Leagues takes a lot of preparation on everyone's part prior to the performance. We'll be back to talk with the scene shop foreman, lighting designer, sound designer, costume designer, and the actors following this message.
I'm pursuing my PhD in nursing.
I work in video production.
I'm a physical therapist.
I'm a business owner.
I'm a journalist.
A refrigeration technician.
I am a dental hygienist.
And I got my start at Northeast State.
I started
At Northeast State.
I got my start at Northeast State.
We all have to start somewhere, and at Northeast State, we make it easy. With over 150 programs of study, the choice is clear. Smart careers start here. Visit northeaststate.edu and get started today. Northeast State Community College. We're here to get you there.
Welcome back. Today we're talking with the student and professional designers involved with the Northeast State Theater Department production of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. In theater, one of the key elements is the set that provides the background and the overall mood for action. Richard Curtis is the set designer and scene shop foreman for our theater departments here at Northeast State. We spoke with him about taking a script and making it reality.
Trying to get a feel for what you're going to do, what it's going to look like, the aesthetic. After multiple meetings, then we all come together and we decide an aesthetic. For this one was kind of like a steampunk-esque. We didn't really want to go full steampunk because it's been done too many times, so we just wanted to get a feel for it and kind of neutralize the colors so the lights and everything else will pop. But the design process is generally pretty rigorous. This is actually the final of 4 different attempts. But this is what we came to, and it seems to work. We have curtains that come down and hide the actual inside of the Nautilus itself. Then for other scenes, we've got the boat that comes out, rolls out for battle scene. We've got another version of, it's only the top of the Nautilus that comes out, and it's hit with lights so it looks like it's in the water. Then we bounce between the lighting designer and myself, different areas on the stage, and the world's built with lighting only. It works together. I'll work with the lighting designer, find out what kind of colors he's going with, and then try to pick colors that are going to pick up on different hues that he's creating. And some of them, like the set, will actually turn black the way it's designed right now, so it'll hide itself when the lights come down. The technical part, luckily I have a good background in building and art. We use mostly Luan for the facing, try to generalize everything so it's parts that we can use over and over again, like 4x8 flats. Plywood 2x4s and Luan's basically it. The painting is kind of hit or miss. We'll test little areas and see what it looks like, try different techniques if that doesn't work. But this one here in particular, we split up certain segments and a different person got similar segments across. That way it's randomized, but it's not randomized. So it has different textures across the ship, but it's almost universal.
Lighting for a stage performance can be a challenge, especially with a fantasy show like 20,000 Leagues. Lighting designer Brendan Dykes tells us what is involved in designing the light scheme for the show.
Really, it comes down to with the Foreigner, it was more of white lights. You're going to be more in a home setting and stuff like that, where compared to 20,000 Leagues, it's set it underwater and it's a highly advanced ship that's just swimming around the ocean. So pretty much the difference between the two is your limits are the imagination, or your imagination is your limit here. So otherwise, you can go as extravagant as you want. Like I mentioned with the ocean earlier, you can really emulate lots of blues and a little bit of white and greens and stuff to actually make an ocean for people to swim around in or whatever. We have a gobo rotator where it's creating a shimmer effect on stage, to where we have 2 metal discs that rotate different directions to create, like I said, a shimmer effect. So that's pretty awesome.
Another important element of stage show is sound. Sound may seem like background to the action, but it is actually an important element of any production. We spoke with Aaron Bradley, sound designer for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, to get his take on the importance of good sound design.
The first thing you do is you read the script, and then all the designers sit down with the director, and we all talk about the director's artistic vision, and then we all pick out specific words that have a lot of depth, a lot of feeling to them. Mysterious was one of the ones for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So then we start designing around the words that we have chosen, and if it falls into that category, then we put it on the table, and then the director says yes or no. If he wants it more mysterious and less foreboding, then we go with that direction, sort of thing, and that's when we make our adjustments that we need to make. I have a lot of different ways that I do it. Sometimes I field record. I have a 1 terabyte external hard drive that's pretty much completely full at this point of just sounds in general, and I can take basically what's on there, throw it through effects processors depending on what I need, and then reverse it, whatever I need to do, and make different stuff out of it. For example, for the giant squid attack in this show, I've actually got the sound of a dentist drill in it, but I put it through so many effects and stuff that it sounds almost like it's screeching more than anything. Most of the time, the director on the show, Brad McKenzie, would rather have music to drive it than ambience. So I'm using a lot of music with this show. Compared to a show set in realism, it's different. A show like this takes a lot more imagination. So, for example, you have a giant squid, like I mentioned earlier. You have to figure out, well, what would that sound like if it attacked a submarine? Well, I've never been in a submarine, and I've never been attacked by a giant squid. Whereas a show like The Foreigner, one of the last shows I designed, the power goes out, and it's like, well, what does it sound like when you're sitting in the house and the power goes out? You can easily relate to that and make that sound. Whereas with this, it takes a lot more imagination, and it's honestly a lot more challenging to make this sort of a show versus a show set in realism.
Costuming a fantasy show is much different than a standard play. Costume designer Ollie Skeens tells us about bringing the show to life with period and stylized character costumes.
First I read the play, then I read it again, and then from there I just kind of figure out what the director wants for characters and things like that, and just there's different characters that I have to design and everything, and then we decide our budget and what costume pieces and everything we'll need, and that's kind of the process. And then I do research images and things like that on various different things. Like this time I was researching sailor clothing from the late 1800s, stuff like that. So yes, there are fantasy characters, and the difference between the character from the real world characters versus the fantasy characters are basically the style of their clothing and their color palettes, because the ones that are from the real world type thing are more have earthy ground tone colors, and then the fantasy characters have more vivid type colors and styles. I'm gonna have to work closely with them because just to work with make sure the set colors and the costume colors work well together, and also the lighting and all that.
Joining us today is Elizabeth Sloan, the producer for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Thank you, Elizabeth, for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the adaptation of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Sure, I'd love to. It's for anyone who knows the classic sci-fi novel by Jules Verne. There's a lot of familiar elements, but it's a little updated in the fact that it's a comedy satire. So that's a little different from the original. Not to mention, there are a lot of references to 80s action movies, which is really random, I know. So I like to say that this play is like a wild romp. It is so silly. It's definitely over the top, but there are references to Jaws and I think Die Hard. I mean, there's a huge list of all these kind of classic 80s. I think there's an Alien maybe reference from the Aliens movie. I don't know, but there's so many. And I think the director, Brad McKenzie, really captures that fun, cheesy almost spirit of a lot of those 80s action movies. Right, and he and the sound designer, Aaron Bradley in particular, really work to help use the music to create the fun, crazy tone for this show. Right. I think people are, even if they don't understand all the references, I think they will love the show. It's so fun. And the show only lasts an hour. So it starts and then it's like, whoo, it flies by, and then it's over.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit too about your function as a producer for this.
I like to jokingly say that I'm a paper monkey. I'm the head of the theater department, so when I'm not directing, I serve as a producer, which basically means I do a lot of paperwork, which doesn't sound very exciting. But you know, when you work for the state, they require paperwork. So I have a lot of that, and I'm in charge of keeping up with our budget. It's, you know, the WRCPA is a beautiful space. It is gorgeous. We're so lucky to have it. It's also very big though, so it does cost money to fill that space. So we have to buy wood, costumes. So I'm in charge of a lot of the budget, and I also go shopping. But I tell you what, with a producer, there's so many different departments on this campus that I have to collaborate with, whether they know it or not, like the business office, purchasing, accounts payable. I can just go, I think I counted it one time, there's about 20 different departments that the theater department, specifically me, I have to talk to in order to get a show done, because you can't do a theater production by yourself. You need a lot of help.
Oh yeah, definitely need a lot of help.
So I feel like I'm on the phone a lot, I'm on my computer a lot. My days are pretty crazy and never the same. They're always different. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing too.
I love it, actually. I really do. And I tell you too, as a producer, I'm usually pretty hands off. When the director needs something, I try to make that happen. But like this weekend is a really big step, part of the process. So that's when, as a producer, I will also step in this weekend and check things out.
Wow. Well, also tell us a little bit too about the stage management.
I was actually in one of my classes today talking about stage management. I think it's a matter of opinion, but I'm pretty sure my opinion's right in this case. I think the stage manager is the most important role in all of theater. They're basically the conductor of a show. So here at Northeast State, you know, they're students. And the young lady, and she had a class today, so she couldn't be here. Her name's Rebecca Hobson. She's a nursing major. She's not even a theater major. She just somehow got involved last spring. And so she's the stage manager, and this for the first time. So she's never done it before. The cast, I think it's almost 30. I think that's what it is, the last count. Yeah, it's about almost 30 people. So that means she's in charge of wrangling and being in charge of all these people. They're Northeast State students, community members. We have an adjunct professor in the cast. So she has to keep charge. Seriously, wrangle is the best word I can think of. All the designers, the director, and all of the students. Make sure everyone shows up on time. Make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. And when the show opens, I'm not backstage ever. The director's not backstage ever. She's completely in charge of all of these people. So it is a huge undertaking, but this girl is so amazing. She's so accomplished. She's one of Northeast State's, I think, best students probably, and she's doing a great job.
Well, also too, if you could tell us a little bit about the function of a stage manager, you know, behind the show, I guess behind the scenes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So as I said, she's a conductor. So what I like to think of, like, she has a binder, and that binder has everything in it. It has the script, all the blocking, which is like actor movement on stage. She'll have the light cues, the sound cues. So an easy way to describe it is if you're sitting watching a show, anytime you see the lights change, or you hear the sound change, you see a set piece roll on stage, roll off stage, she's making that happen. Because she's on the headphone with other people saying, okay, hit that button, make the lights change, make the sound change, roll up that submarine, make it go on stage.
Kind of an important job.
It's huge.
Yes.
It's a huge job, and if she wasn't as competent, we couldn't get it done. So her big job is going to start this weekend. This weekend we have something that's called technical rehearsal, which means 10 hours on Saturday and 10 hours on Sunday. All of the cast, the director, myself, the stage manager, some of the designers, will be there, and we'll kind of put the design and the tech elements together with the acting for the first time. It's a tedious process.
It sounds like it.
But it's so important. I mean, this is what professional theater does, which is what we try to do. We try to teach them the correct professional etiquette, we try, and procedure. So this weekend is kind of when the director will pass the baton onto the stage manager, and she'll be in charge after this weekend of everything.
Wow, that's very interesting. Tell us too about the final preparations.
Yes.
20,000. Yeah.
So the tech rehearsal, what I was just talking about, that's the big thing for this weekend. Like I said, that's 20 hours. Whew, it really asks one to be really patient throughout the. But for me, as a producer, I don't have to do much. I'll be honest. I just get to watch and see the show come together. And for this show, I just saw a run of the show the other night, and it was so crazy and so much fun. But one thing, a lot of times I had to turn to the director and be like, wait, what's happening right now? Because there was no tech elements yet, no lights, no sound, no big costumes, not all the set pieces were there. And for this show in particular, the lights and the sound and the costumes are really gonna help tell that story. So this weekend, all that's gonna come together. We're gonna see the awesome music that's in the show. There's great fight choreography. There's this awesome like bar brawl at the beginning of the show. So all of that's gonna come together this weekend. Then we have dress rehearsal Monday, Tuesday, and probably Wednesday, and the show opens Thursday.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could tell us a little bit too about the costumes and stuff, for that.
Yeah. Brad worked pretty closely with a brand new costume designer, and her name's Ollie Skeens. She's brand new to design, and she has a learning curve, but she has done a great job. Her imagination is boundless, so she has done really cool sketches, and I'm sure her fingers are bleeding because she's had to make some really interesting costumes. There's some definitely just basic costumes, but what she's been working on are these underwater dive suits. So I remember when I saw her sketch, I was like, how on earth are you gonna make those? So I'm anxious to see myself. I know I buy a lot of things for them to make stuff, but I haven't seen it yet.
All right, well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here today.
Great.
It's been great talking about it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll be back after this.
I've learned a lot of things in my life, but there is no substitute for hard work. If you've got the will and determination, doors will always continue to open. Life puts us in the driver's seat. Where we go and what we accomplish is up to us. What's that old saying? When the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Join us now are 4 members of the cast of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea: Tyler Haygood, Captain Nemo, Gavin Strawn, Professor Aronnax, Jacob Green, Kinsea, and Jacob Lewis, Ned Land. Thank you for joining us. So tell us a little bit about the adaptation of this movie. It's different than the actual book and then, of course, the movie that came back out several years ago. So tell us about that, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Well, I have not read the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea book, but I will say that the play that we're doing now is much more 80s action flick, a lot of different Easter eggs from different 80s movies and all these things. And I don't know what else to say.
Brad, our director, Brad McKenzie, he said when he read this script, the thing that it primarily reminded him of was an old Indiana Jones film, and therefore what those are based off of, which is like vintage action serials like from the 20s and 30s. So we have kind of a vintagey action sci-fi vibe to it, and it's a funny version of the story.
All right, so tell us a little bit about your role in the show.
So I am Professor Aronnax. I'm kind of this bookish intellectual who's physically pretty incompetent, and my valet Kinsea, played by Jake, is kind of keeps me alive and keeps me moving along. Yeah, we're having a lot of fun with that, and I just kind of lose my mind throughout the whole show. Aronnax just is in a constant state of panic about something, and so it's been a lot of fun.
Wow. Now tell us a little bit about that there, in the constant state of panic. I mean, what's the reason for panic, looking at the show?
So as I was working on Aronnax, he's a character, he likes to stay some amount aware of what's going on. Like, he's maybe not physically able to maintain control, but as long as he's intellectually able to process, he's good. And throughout the show, he is abducted by a submarine, which is something that should be impossible, by a sociopath, and dropped on a cannibal island, which he then has to run from, and then back into the sociopath's clutches while he's being manipulated. And it's a long sequence of events that are just too outlandish for Aronnax to process. So I'm having a lot of fun with that.
He was dropped on a cannibal island?
That's Jacob and our characters are all dropped on the cannibal island in the middle. It's a delightful sequence. I get to scream bloody murder, which is a lot of fun. But yeah.
Wow. Now, tell us a little bit about your role in that, I guess, from your perspective.
So I'm Kinsea, I'm his valet. Kinsea, that's the thing is, with a lot of the time you want your complicated characters in there, and not saying that Kinsea doesn't have his moments or that he's not able to process stuff physically, but he's more of the simple-minded guy. He'll let Ned, who's more charismatic and who wants to always argue, you know what I mean, and Professor, they meet at bronze and clash, and then they clash, and then I'm sort of just here I'll do whatever he does. So yeah, I'm very loyal to him. I follow him through thick and thin. It gets me into situations, and then I have to save my bacon, his bacon, and then I form some meaningful relationships along the way with Ned and stuff like that. So it's been a strange role because it's not it's not a bad thing to be a simple character, but it's a hard thing to be a simple character and still get meaning and still get meaningful character growth throughout the story, and that's been one of my parts that I've been trying to do with this play. So.
I would say so. Now, so you play Ned.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Tell us about that.
Well, Ned is he's a very rugged person himself. He's an adventurous person. He doesn't really like the idea of being in a group with somebody who could probably match his intelligence, and but he has to end up working with them, and he realizes that. And the entire time, it seems that he is trying to figure out ways to take charge. But you'll have to see the play to see if that works out or not. And Nemo here definitely gives me a hard time.
So now, why do you get a hard time? Why do you give him a hard time like that? Then just kind of elaborating on that.
What specifically? A hard time about?
Yeah. Well, he said that he kind of gets a hard time. So I was just kind of curious, just kind of putting it together in my mind. Why is it hard?
Well, put it lightly, Nemo's kind of a sociopath.
Yeah.
He's not the most level-headed, and so once we come aboard his ship, I see it almost as playthings or something. It's we're his own toys, and he sees Aronnax as someone that he could possibly connect with and be a companion, and then we're just two annoyances, some bug flying around his face or something. It's very strange because we three are together, and we're in the same boat, and submarine, whatever, and we're that's a funny joke. We're together though, and we're in the same kind of arena, and then he's this one watching over us. So our relationship to him varies for each one of us, and it's one of the things that makes this play really interesting. And trying to figure out who Nemo is one of the, I think, going to be the cool parts for the audience to figure out.
So it's kind of like a mystery even for the audience trying to figure out, who this character Nemo is.
Yeah.
That's kind of also the mystery for a lot of the characters. Aronnax, I know for my character, it's kind of half of his motive for most of the show is just figuring out what Nemo is. I have a whole backstory to that. But Nemo's Tyler's doing a fabulous job with that, and Nemo's an enigma, and it's a delight to watch.
So tell us a little bit about your role in this.
Well, I play Captain Nemo, and as everyone has said, I'm a sociopath, but Nemo's a very complex character. He has a very dark past, and because of this past, it's warped his mind so much that he doesn't care much for anything except for his ship and his crew. That is all. He does wish that he could have someone who's almost to his level of intelligence, to where he could hold an intelligent conversation, but Like they all said, he doesn't care much for anyone. He hates Ned Land, and he sees.
You don't even see me.
He doesn't even see Kinsea.
I'm just a puppy dog on the side of the road to you. Like that's like it's our relationship is one of the stranger ones for sure. So, but sorry, you can continue. I forgot.
No, but I've had a blast playing him. He's very complex. It's really fun.
So I wonder if you could tell us too exactly. I mean, you said that he hates Ned. Tell us a little bit about that. Well, why? I mean, why would he hate Ned?
I don't think he hates Ned just necessarily just because it's Ned. He hates Ned because, well, he hates anyone. He hates humanity. That is what he hates. So Ned is this rugged man who pretty much picks a fight with Nemo, and Nemo does not like that. So Nemo doesn't like when people try to fight him or seem like they're intelligent or come across as that. He looks down on everyone and everything, especially even Professor Aronnax, even if he's trying to
befriend.
He's trying to Stockholm Syndrome him, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, he looks down on everyone.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Wow. Tell us a little bit too about the action. You know, what's all going on with that.
Man, there is some fight choreography in this play, a lot of it, and it's we've been working on it a long time now, so it's very, very realistic. There's a lot of it. I mean, it's definitely been taking some getting used to because I mean, at some points in the play, like there's actual contact punches, but it doesn't physically hurt anybody. But it's been real fun, you know. Throughout the play, there's fight choreography that has been established, and it's going to be real awesome to see in motion when the play goes full swing.
Wow, are there any weapons? Just curious, you know, any like actual weapons or something that's portrayed as like a...
Yeah, there's a bunch of weapons in the play. I don't really want to give them up. I guess I can give mine up. There's weapons that Nemo's crew has and that they use, and then Ned likes to carry around a harpoon a lot during the whole play. It's kind of a going gimmick with him. And then, but that's about, you know, there's a lot of weapons and a lot of surprise things that's going to come out throughout the play that maybe is expected if you've read the book or seen the movie, or maybe not expected if you've not seen all of them.
All right, well, thank you so much. We'll be right back in a moment to wrap up Direction Northeast.
Over 10 years in investigations.
25 in heating and air conditioning.
15 years in the automotive industry.
22 in computer science.
23 years in healthcare.
An engineer.
A biochemist.
A chemist.
An award-winning author.
Northeast State professors bring experience to the classroom, a personal education from a professional. Classes when you need them, where you need them. More than 150 programs. Visit northeaststate.edu. Northeast State Community College. We're here to get you there.
That concludes the program for today. We have talked to members of the cast and crew of the Northeast State Theater Department's production 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Community is very important to the students at Northeast State Community College, and this program takes a look at a few of the subjects they find important. Until we meet again, on behalf of the students, staff, and faculty of Northeast State Community College, I'm Kit Alexander, and this is Direction Northeast.